understand is that they are human beings just like us.
Right.
And mental health issues, as I mentioned earlier when we were talking, is that mental health issues are an illness just like any other illness.
Right.
And the severity can be from the same as either a flu or a cold, all the way to COVID, cancer. So we need to have that understanding. When we have that understanding, we know that if I have a problem and I'm suffering from malaria, or if I was to collapse, you will find a way to get me to a doctor. So when we find something that is out of the norm for a particular person, the best thing that we can do is always to find a way for them to get to a specialist who can be able to help them out.
Okay. So the best thing is to seek help.
To seek help for ourselves, that is, or if we notice something in someone, to try and see if we can be able to help them by directing them to the help that they need.
For men, is this an easy thing to do? Because you're a man, I'm a man, and most of the time we have this male ego. And we just want to carry on like things are very okay.
Well, it's not really about male ego, but it's about society.
Okay.
Because society has demanded that men always are in control, that men always are the final answer. That's why you'll find, and I never used to understand it when I was young, because like when I say working, I used to wonder why there's some old men who, after 5 p.m., they're still at the office. And some of them used to report to me, so I knew what they were doing. So I'm like, okay, you don't really have a lot of pressure in terms of work, so why are you here? And for me, because I was young, I was, scuttled out at 5 p.m. and I'm rushing because I was still staying in my dad's house. And over time, I got to start realizing and getting to engage some of them. You realize that at times they are doing that because they do not want to go home. Because when they go home, number one, they are quiet. And when they go home, for many of them, because you have issues at home, you've got demands from your family members. You've got, including financial demands from your family members. And now is when I get to understand that, I never used to understand why dad would say, he's broke, at the end of the month. I mean, you're working, you're earning a salary. But now I'm working, I'm earning a salary, and I struggle, and he laughs at me and says, see, I pay your fees, so you should always make sure your children are in school. And I'm struggling to figure out where to get that money. And I realized then that, much as we're able to talk about these things now, especially the older generation, they couldn't. It was that as long as the problem gets to dad, it's a done deal. He's supposed to figure it out. And he could not, show any sign of weakness. So many times, they will come and you will sit in the house and they're quiet. So that's why I always say it's not really male ego, it's that we were pushed into this particular position. Mm-hmm. If you find yourself struggling, if you find yourself crying about anything, you're labeled as weak, right? And especially even now, it is very hard for men to find a lady who's interested in them and maybe get married if they're going to show their emotions. If they're going to say, I do not have the answers.
Yeah, don't you think those are the right kind of people?
Those are the right kind of people. That's what I'm saying. Society, unfortunately, has put that on people, and now it's people like us who come and say, I'm not afraid to cry. Mm-hmm. And I'm not afraid to talk about my weaknesses. And people have, I've been bashed about it, but I've stuck with it. And interestingly enough, those are the things that have got me to places like here, because I realized there is a group of people who understand. And because they understand, they ask me to come and share with them, talk with them. And for me, as we say, iron sharpens iron. When I find such people, and this kind of people we have in this room, I come out of here where you think that I've come to just bless you, but I come out of here blessed.
Thank you so much. Just thank you. Please go ahead, Rosalind.
Hey, I just want to add to that. In fact, we need actually to define what is mental health.
Right.
Mental health is lack of health. Actually, is lack of mental illness. It's actually mental illness, yeah. And what we need to understand is, for mental illness, we need to stop looking at depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, all those. A madman walking around talking to yourself. That is mental illness, yes. But we also have the type of people who, what we're going through today. What I've just had my sisters talk about raising their children. How do you grow old? Loneliness. All those things are part of the mental health. In fact, what I get in my clients is when you're having something disturbing you, stressing your mind, it's very important to get a person to talk to. Because that is what leads into depression. Yeah, that's now what leads into mental illness. So you find people coming looking for therapies, they just want to talk, maybe they want to change their jobs, they're in the transition stage. That will stress you. Maybe you have a stressful boss, that will stress the person. Yeah? Maybe your child is having issues. Yeah? That will stress you as a person. So the mental illness is something that we need to now demystify and group it into components. There are those ones that will need to go to Chiromo. There are those ones that are actually working. They have got no idea they are stressed. So, and during as I finished, when we were growing up, we used to have aunties. I could walk to my auntie or even my neighbor and I'd actually talk to them about my issues, about maybe my boyfriend who is doing something to me and I don't understand, about abuse, I don't understand. And that auntie would actually tell me you're doing something, there's something wrong here. Nowadays we don't have those kind of people. Yeah. That's why we're finding out the community that we're living in, we don't have people to talk to. And I like what she said. The people to talk to are not there. That's why the mental illness is now going on the rise. And depression is going on the rise. And the percentages of men committing suicide is higher. For every 5 men, 1 woman.
Wow.
Because we just don't talk.
Rosalind, whose fault is it that we don't have people to talk to?
You can't point at it's no one's fault. It's just the fact that and he alluded to that, it's just our upbringing. We were told in our families, shida za hii familia yetu, do not talk about your problems. If you talk about your problems, you're weak. Or you're going to bring shame to this family.
Interesting, because the church really advocates for e-groups and groups like these, and then you find people don't even attend them. Because I know like our e-group is very vibrant for the last 12 years. And people pour out and talk. And I like what Tony also shared as far as talking. Josephine, how else can we avoid this mental illness? I know you shared quite extensively, but you can just tell us some more.
So I'll just write on what my 2 panelists have said. I think there is a place where we need to teach people how mental health shows up every day. I think what we know is it has to be a big situation for me to get stressed or for someone to get to the point of suicide. I always say most of these are trauma responses. So if we start with what is going on every day, let's find out, how am I showing up? I like that you said there are e-groups, but the question is, when I come to that e-group, there is pressure for me to look like, hallelujah, the Lord is with me. I studied the book of Nahum. There is pressure to look like I know the Bible, yet I can't talk about what I'm really going through. So our culture, and I would like to say it's an African thing, it was always show up as your best. What number were you? Now that you're working, where are you working? What school are your children in? So there's pressure for all to feel like you're always being measured. Yeah. When you get to the goalpost people set, it's taken higher. So you're never a winner. So then you find when you invite people for groups, I'll come, but I'll come when I'm wearing a mask because I'm afraid to show the real me. And people are asking, is the real me acceptable? Can I really come? And in church worship team, come as you are. No. Like, are we really ready to receive people as they are?
Like Pastor Judy was saying, that person they avoided. Are we really ready to receive such people?
Yeah. So there's a place where we need to create safe spaces. You cannot create a safe space until you have done your healing. Because if I've not healed, it means every time I interact with Rosalind or Sikolia, I'm always coming at them from a place of perfection. I'm projecting the things I'm hiding, I'm demanding that they have that. So there's a lot of healing that needs to first happen within the church. And who is the church? Made up of families. Who are the families? Individuals.
I'm looking at someone who doesn't come to church. They're not a Christian. How can we reach out to them?
Interestingly enough, when we consider it from a church perspective, we kind of almost limit. We need to always be able to consider it from a God perspective.
Right.
And from a God perspective, he did not go to church. He went to where the people were, and he was able to support them. Jesus was able to help them from there. So in terms of, and I've seen this many times, and this is really what I do, because looking at my past, there was a time I was actually a Link One cell leader, and I knew for a fact that God has called me at some point I'm going to become a pastor, and that's how I'm going to be able to minister to his people. I remember sharing in the cell and saying, there's a time I was asking God, why am I in this cell? Why am I leading this cell of cell leaders? Because the people I was leading were cell leaders. And I remember like yesterday, God speaking to me and saying, it's because I need to show people that I still care. I'm with them and I still care. And over time, I knew that I was going to be a pastor. But then things have happened in my life and brought me to a place where I still preach, but I do not come and say the Bible says this and this is what, but I preach from my life. I preach from, from that perspective where I show people that I care. People come to me many times and ask me, why do you talk to that person? How come that person comes to visit you? And there are people who will even come to my house and they'll not talk. They'll be there for hours, we'll watch a movie, I'll cook, they'll eat, they'll not talk and they'll leave. And people are like, but that person doesn't even talk to people. I say, maybe that person just needs someone to understand them. And so that's how I minister. I minister by being there for them. Regardless of who they are, regardless of their religion, regardless of everything, for me, I'm just like, I need to show them that God cares. So if they think that I care, and they ask me, how come you do this? I say, because God has been good to me. And that's how I bring in that actual discussion.
Somebody once said people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
And just to add to what Tony said, that what you do speaks so loudly, I can barely hear what you say.
Wow, that's a good one. The ministry of presence is very, very critical. Just being there, you don't even have to say anything sometimes.
The interesting thing is the young millennials and some generation, the younger ones, said, they come for therapy. Half the time, they don't want to talk about religion. They can't stand their parents' religion. They can't stand because they believe that their parents are fake. So they are not attracted to their parents. Christianity are not attracted to their parents' church at all. Because their parents, after their mom and dad, after they behave, I can single out, they're many, but I don't single out one case. They're studying in church, they are good, they're church elders, but in the house, they are fighting, they are abusive. So this, I'm seeing these two children, I'm seeing separately, but one family, they do not want. In fact, now they're in campus, they're so happy they're out of home. They don't want to talk about religion at all. I'm also seeing some Indians. I see Indians and Muslims, and they come. And they're really wounded by us as parents. There's an Indian girl, she always cries because of her mom. She has no idea what to do. And I think for me, as a parent of adult children, I'm praying that I have a relationship with my children. And that's why when you say that point of when you grow older, your children are there for you. But they're taking off, they're running away because we did not invest in their relationship. And when they come for therapy, they're coming in terms of, you know what? I love my mom, I love my dad. That part I know. But I just want to be an individual. So how do I put boundaries between my parents and myself and grow up as an individual because I don't want to be like them? That is the sad state of society now.
Let me ask you, do you think that these parents are perhaps even acting out of ignorance?
Half the time, honestly, and I always tell my clients, and I sit, when I'm talking to them, I represent their parents. I sit and represent their parents. I'm like, I can't really talk to like mom. Half the time, and I don't know, we don't know. Because the things they're doing, some of them, the things they tell me, I at times resonate. So I tell them half the time, honestly, we don't know what we did. We're doing what we saw we were done for. And honestly, I apologize. I always apologize on behalf of their parents. I apologize. And the goal for therapy is okay, the client has their goals, but also therapists will have a goal. Goal for the therapy is fine, you might not want to go back home, but I always pray that, and I always work with them in terms of, you know what, you need to have, forgive your mom, or forgive yourself, or forgive your dad, and create a relationship. We're not very close, but let's have that kind of relationship with the parents. Yeah? So half the time, maybe, most of the time, you know, and maybe those parents also have mental issues that they have not picked up.
Very true. We're having challenges in the youth church, and it's very interesting because we watch these children grow from children's church, and now they're in youth church. And all of a sudden there's some coldness or things. But turns out when you speak to the teens, it's not even them. The issue is the parents. You know. When children start saying they don't understand me, you want to share something?
Yes, I just wanted to add where she left off. I think, and I alluded to it last time, when we think back of how we were cultured, our parents, the baby boomers, what they went through, and then what this generation is going through. There's a lot of generational trauma that needs to be healed. So we were raised by parents who are dealing with a lot of PTSD, but we didn't have a name for it. So some of the values they passed on to us, which are now our culture, and you hear people proudly say, in this family, you'll be beaten. I mean, there are some things that are actually, like when someone looks at you, they'll be shocked at the things that we've normalized, because that's actually trauma. So now we have the generation, she was talking about millennials and Gen Z, they will ask questions. This older generation that's how I saw it being done. I heard this story once of a lady, and I think, I want to believe it's true. She always used to get, I think it's pork or fish, cut off the head and the back and fry it like that. So one day her daughter asked her, why do you always do that? She's there like, oh, my mom always did it. So she called her mom, the child's grandmother, and the mom said, I only did it because we had a small pan. Like, so all this time she thought that's the way, and that's how we are, that our generation now is beginning to ask. But when you ask and we say we don't know, half of the time we are traumatized. We've not dealt with how we were beaten to a pulp. Those are triggers. So there's a lot that needs to be healed, because this generation, we cannot keep passing on the baton of trauma and expecting them to be okay. They will call us flakes, they will not come to us, but guess what? Parent Google is always available.
Wow, triggers. What else are triggers? You know, Tony, you alluded to people overworking. And I liked it that you tell people go home. But are there bosses like that today that tell people go home?
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you asked that, because I've seen places, and having worked also in HR, we got to realize that people often do not leave their jobs, they leave their bosses. And so that is, you know, we need to be able to have more and more people who, in terms of from a career perspective, when we bring them into managerial positions, we need to have an understanding of those people, because we reward good workers by promoting them. And in case of place, and their managers having people under them. But then, if you really look at it, some of those people are very good at the work they do, and they can be able to do it exceptionally well, but then they're not people. So they cannot manage people. But then we reward them with a management job, and then we start saying that now they're not performing. So we need to understand the strengths of the people who are working with us in the organization, and I normally talk about this when I'm mentoring or coaching entrepreneurs. And so you need to understand who do you have working for you, and what are their weaknesses, what are their strengths. And then once you have that understanding, you can be able to leverage on that. Having said that, you know, the Bible says, you know, if someone asks you why you believe as you do, be ready to tell them, but tell them in a gentle and polite way. So in terms of many times, you know, you get to a place, and I tend to meet people and they say, you know, I don't know what's going on, I think things are so hard, and I tell them, you know what, the universe is going to agree with you. Mm-hmm. So if you think that things are hard, and you talk about things are hard, then things will be hard. But if you start saying, you know what, no matter what comes my way, I will deal with it because I know I'm strong, I know I'm capable. That's what's going to happen. And when I share like that, people are like, oh, really? Yes. And I can see people turn around, and many times people come and say, you know what? You know, when we were talking about this, what made you think like that? I said, because for me, I believe in God, and I believe that, you know what? Whatever you believe and what you declare is what's going to happen. The Bible says, declare a thing and it shall be established. So you see, I've actually shared the Bible without saying the Bible says declare a thing and it shall be established. I just say, whatever you tell the universe, it will agree with you. Now, when that person comes and says, wait, but you know, this universe, I say, because the universe has been created by someone.
Oh. Rosalind, is that the way that you get to speak to your Muslim
Can I
Indian
add
clients?
something? I know I'm not really.
Please, go ahead.
Just what Tony said about the workplace. I think there's a place where we need to redefine what HR is. I know it's human resources, but I like to call it human reality. If you look at the people as human beings first, instead of a means to an end, you will then know they need time out, they need, you'll check on them how they're doing mentally, like you'll ensure that resource is functioning properly before you demand from it.
How can we influence HR? I'm one person that even when I speak in parenting circles, I do say that if you're a HR and you're here, I would suggest that you help people to, how else can we influence them? Especially in our age group, we are past that. But I liked what Nancy shared, that as we go on, we keep our peers as friends, but more so to reach to those below us, because people are looking for people who've walked the way before. Rosalind, anything?
Yeah. Number one, my DNA is in Christ.
Right.
So whether you're a Muslim, a Christian, or whatever.
So do you say that when they show up and say,
Yes,
"I'm
no, that's
my
not-
name is Rosalind, thank you for coming to my meeting. I'm born again, praise God."
No, what happens is some people will tell you, they'll come to for therapy and they tell you, please, because of course they've Googled you.
Right.
Yeah, before you come and see if you've already been Googled. So they know, somehow they figure out, and then they also see your friends. It's very important who's your friend on Facebook.
Right. And what you post on Facebook.
I realized, yeah. Anyway, so they know your attachment. So they'll come and give you a disclaimer, please do not, I don't talk about it. We need God, let's not talk about it. I say it's okay. But so when I say once in a while, because it's so normal to me to say, praying or everything, it's part of my vocabulary. So I'll put a disclaimer also, me, it's okay, but since it's part of me, once in a while I'll use one or two words. But if you feel uncomfortable, just say it out. You put a disclaimer, but also put a disclaimer. Because that's part of my DNA. And I'll say, I prayed for you, I thought about you the previous day, and I prayed for you.
Wow.
That is just me, that is how I do it, because you're actually coming into my domain.
Right.
Yeah, that's my domain, and it's blessed and it's everything. So I have to operate into my domain.
You're just real.
Yeah, I'm just really.
Okay.
And let's say, the interesting thing is when you're dealing with people who are non-Christians, no, I'm talking about HR now, however, I think it's not more so about HR, it's about all of us. Because if you have, and she's alluded to it, if you have past issues, anger issues, whether you're in HR or not in HR, even you as an employee, you'll bring them out and you'll hurt people. Yeah. So I think it's important to deal with. And I must say, of all my children, I recommend them to go for therapy. I always tell them, you know what, if you have an issue, and be free to report to me. Be free to say mom is bad or dad is bad. Feel free. Both of my husband and dad, we tell children, and they have a diary to their therapist. Because you find that around also, if you don't have an auntie or an uncle or something to talk to, let them talk to somebody they know. Yeah. If you can, I have also numbers of children as young as 14 and 13, especially when they come for holidays. I've given them permission to send me a text, to call me, to send me a voice call. I can even read one. The other one she's around, she's telling me they're in school, and I feel like mom is not favoring me. And I tell her, Mom is worried that my brother more than me. I'll tell them, okay, I'll call you. So you see, I'm holding these children's hands even beyond therapy.
Wow.
And the parents have given me permission to talk into their lives.
And you get paid for that.
No, zingine tunafanyanga tu because ingine na pro bono, but you see I get referrals. Yeah.
Let me ask you out of curiosity, what do you charge an hour? That's good money. She's laughing, not even to the bank, right here.
Oh,
Just to find out.
Okay, I actually put my soul and heart in a client.
Okay.
And whether you come with more or less the same issues,
Yeah. That is already justifying the
Yes. No, what I do is I do 5K
per hour.
for the first session. Yeah, for the first session, because that's history intake. And then
This is
4,000 subsequent sessions.
good business,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Good business. And
Yeah.
for us who have in Silver Club, these are things we can do. Some of them.
Yes,
Training.
and I have also, there's also, my office is you can come and use my office. And you just pay me 1,000 for using of my office per hour. If you have somebody you want to come and coach, you want to come and talk to, just come, there's
You're
space.
also a certified professional mediator. I am also one of those.
Yeah, you bring them, bring them.
And you know, I know the charges. But it's a good thing, by the way.
Yeah.
Talking about social media, which you mentioned, that
Yeah.
you have to check what you post.
Yes.
What is the role of social media in accelerating mental health or reducing mental health?
On my part, for me it works very well for me because most of my posts are just posting about awareness, creating awareness, and just basically creating awareness. And actually millennials get me on social media.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to hear the role of social media from all of you, just in a minute. The
Okay.
role of social media in accelerating or reducing mental health.
I'll start with that positive. Accelerating. The generation today, when you talk about mental health, whether it's anxiety, like I can't get over how they can just come and tell you, oh, I had a panic attack. In our days, it was like, what? Like you're saying it openly, like people, it was all quiet. Because they've grown up in a generation where mental health is spoken of openly, there are all these people saying, hey, if you need therapy, if you need, those are the ads they are seeing. We grew up with Omo Pika Box, we grew up with Kimbo. For them, a lot on mental health and support and therapy is what they see. The flip side is, because of social media, there is such, like the pressure, especially the Gen Z, the teenagers who are growing up, there's an ideal body, there's an ideal look, there's an ideal, so there's that pressure to always keep up. So that has added so much stress, pressure, like you can't do, everything is being, if you're here struggling, for example, if you finish university and you tarmac for like 3 years, if I bumped into Sequoia or Roslyn, that's when I would know, hey, even if you haven't found a job, now every day people are saying, hey, got my first job, like when COVID broke out and nothing was happening. I used to get triggered when I see messages of, we've just finished our 5-year strategy, new client signed, and then like, who are these people and the rest of the world? So there's pressure because you're always seeing what other people are doing, and it's happening in real time every second. And then also people are always awake. So you're seeing people struggling with insomnia, people working long hours, there's guilt for if I sleep, I wake up and the world has gone on without me. So all that is just adding to a lot of pressure.
Quick question right on that note. Do you think people are not sleeping enough?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Especially now, because there's just a lot. You're always on. So if you put down your phone, you're looking at a screen. If the TV screen is off, it's your computer. So that being always on, you go to sleep and your mind is just working overtime, then it's time to wake up again. And that has great effects, and I'm sure she can speak to that, yeah?
Okay.
Well, I don't know about Jocelyn, but I'm sleeping enough. and that was very deliberate because right from primary school, for some reason, I've never been able to sleep more than 4 hours continuous.
Wow.
So at around 3-4 hours, I'll wake up Now, what I do at that particular point will determine whether I'll end up sleeping some more or wake up. Because if I wake up at that point, I will function, okay, I can actually do up to, there's a time I could do up to 45 hours. Now I can actually be awake for up to 30 hours. Clearly, age is catching up. But I realized, and being able to be there for people, remember when I said, I realized God said, I want you to show people that I still care. Josephine, I've known her for almost the whole of my life, actually, about 35 years.
16 years.
Over 35 years, so that means she's older than 35. And, over the years, I've come to realize that being there for people, I got to a place where people would call me, and especially at night, I get those calls of, I've been arrested for alcohol, I've been arrested for speeding, this has happened, we have an emergency, we need to take someone to the hospital. And because of my networks, I've been able to help. But it's recently, actually about 4 months ago, now I actually put a blocker on my phone. So if you call me between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., you're not going to get me. It's not going to come through. If you send me messages, this is what I can get. But then if you're trying to call me, it's not going to come through. Why? Because I realized it got to a place where I'm working so hard through the day. And then at night, when I get to bed, as I'm just about to sleep or as I'm sleeping, a phone call comes. It's an emergency. And I help that person. By the time I now get back to now slow down enough to start to go sleep, maybe something else happens. So I got to find that I'm not sleeping. And health, in terms of health-wise, my mental faculties are not sharp as they ought to be. So I'm able to say, if you wake me up, I open my eyes, and for me, the moment I open my eyes, I'm at 100%. I'm not those people who put slowly over time. So I open my eyes, and you won't scare me. As in, even if you come in, I will open my eyes slowly, look at my surroundings, and respond. Because over time, again, I realize that I cannot react to situations because that's what causes problems. I respond to situations. Having said that, in terms of social media, I've been forced to a place where my 6-year-old daughter, and my life has been all over the place. So my 6-year-old daughter has a TikTok account that the mom opened for her.
6-year-old?
Yes. We're not together, so we're parenting in such a way that there is my house and there is her house.
Right.
In terms of the things, at times she'll come and the things she'll want to watch. So in my house, she has control of the TV. And then because you're able to stream and everything. And the reason I've done that is that as she's watching, I'm watching what she's watching. That way I'm able to come and say, no, this is wrong. I say, but mommy, this is wrong. I will not allow it. And the moment I say that, I will never see her watching it again. So, and how I'm parenting with her eldest sister, who's actually going to be 25 in January. Now, she's always telling her sisters, Dad is bad news. The times I've been beaten, but that was, a different time. Right now, with these other ones, I have to negotiate.
Yeah.
I have to discuss. When my daughter comes and I'm saying, no, we're going, and she says, Dad, I don't want to go. I want to stay in the house. I'm like, but what are you going to be doing in the house? We have to listen. I'll be studying. Now, you need to understand that the girl who's saying that has always been number one. She's not 13. When she was 7 years old, we'd gone to the doctor because she had an issue, allergies. And the doctor was like, you have to stop eating meat because meat is what's bringing this allergy. He said, I don't want to stop eating meat. Give me medicine. And the doctor said, there's no medicine for this. I said, in that case, I will study hard and become a doctor and come and take this clinic of yours. And I'll sit here and I'll find medicine for this. And from that point on, she has, like for instance, when they opened school, I asked her, so what's our target? And she said, that, because I don't look at the position, I don't look at number 1, 2, 3, I look at the marks. So I said, that, at this point, I'm going to target 480, because if I target 480, whenever, after government does its moderation, I will land at around 460. Right? So I target 480, but I expect to get around 460. At the end of this term, 460.
Oh, well done. Well done.
And she said that is, and you see, for her, she says that a drill for the main exam. Now, having said that, I allow them to have a gadget. I have an app, so I'm able to see where the sites and everything that they'll be using.
For those parents who don't have those, maybe you need to share this so that we can provide
Yes.
some oversight, which is very, very critical.
Exactly, because they, you see, like now, in this instance, even when, like, let's say the city, or when she goes to her mom's, she's not able to download apps because I have to approve it. If it come, a notification will come to my phone, she's trying to download this app or this game. So I'm able to see, and if it's something that is inappropriate, I'll say no. If you look at, like, for her, she grew up watching Peppa Pig. In fact, people would come to my house and say, your kid goes to a group of schools, because she would speak with that British accent. I said, no, it's Peppa Pig, and it was always a very nice, good, cartoon. But of late, I've seen that same cartoon, they've now introduced
Same sex and
family.
yeah.
So
And
that's why it's very important, whatever your children are watching, because even those safe cartoons are now being used. These guys are realizing that's the best way to reach out. So when you're thinking, oh, it's cartoons, okay, let them watch. If you're not listening,
because they're trying to sell. I think I want to take questions from the floor. Any questions that you may have towards the panel that you may be thinking about, please just raise your hand or stand and just ask. Yes, Anna.
I asked the first question to Tony, something you said in the beginning, whether somebody has mental health, find them help or get them help. But I just want to ask, what if the person is resistant? How can you help them?
Good question.
see, the first thing is they will be resistant until they know you really care about them. So essentially, wherever it is, invest in it. Say, I'd like to buy you lunch. I think, because for instance, I'll be like, oh, I love the way you play that guitar, and that's a very nice guitar. Just tell me about how you started playing guitar. See, I've pushed it to something he loves. So he'll be, his guard will begin going down as he talks about how he learned the guitar and everything about the guitar. And that's now my avenue to start talking to him. Okay? Like for her, in her instance, when you're having those kids who are coming and saying, because of seeing their parents and this religion thing, one thing I always say is that I hate religion. I really hate religion. And I believe God hates religion, because religion is what separates people. God loves a relationship with him. So the moment you say, I hate religion, guess what? That person or that child is already, okay, I have someone who understands me. The moment they feel that you understand them, even those who get violent, because there are those who actually at some point get violent, but then it's surprising that you find that there's one particular person, when that person walks into the room, they calm down. If they say, sit down, they will obey to the letter. Why? Because they're like, this person understands me. At my very worst, I go to a place where I say, nothing shocks me. So regardless of MC, they will tell you things and watch your reaction.
Yeah.
For me, I'll keep a poker face. I might be like, oh God, why am I even here? But you will not see it on my face. And I'll say, really? Okay, tell me more.
Yeah.
And so they'll be like, oh, this person is not looking shocked. This person looks like they understand. And you will be able to now, that will be your way to just get in and just start talking to them.
I hope that we can get some training on how to handle the various mental health situations.
So I think to a second question to her, which I want to address, I think we also need to understand why. First, why are they resisting?
Why they resist?
Is it because they feel like, is it pressure? Like, is a parent telling me, you need to go for therapy by force, I will resist. Or am I resisting because I genuinely think I'm okay, or I'm in denial? So I think for me, it's to understand the why, and then unpack it from there.
Okay. Oh,
That's it.
hey, Carol, you had a question?
Sure, is it something?
No.
Well said, well said.
Carol?
It's actually not a question, and it's been very enlightening listening to all of you. My name is Carol Agengo, and I'm a mother of a child with mental health issues. She's had it for a very long time, and now I'm able to speak about it because now she's open, she's accepted. It's been a 12-year journey, and she recently posted, now she posts on Facebook, Like I was in hospital, I was suicidal, I was in hospital, so now she's talking about it. But there's certain things that I've learned along the journey, and it's not been an easy journey in any way. But maybe I'll start from the point of separate from her, how we what do you call it? We pass on trauma. Part of the reason, and it's interesting, I get linked to Silver Club for interesting reasons connected with my granddaughter's school. Today I was in school because the teacher shouts at them and it's affecting her. And the school is doing nothing about it. So, but because of the journey I've gone through with my daughter, I went to school and I told the person in charge that they need to deal with that teacher because he's transferring his trauma to the children. And my granddaughter is very vocal, for those who met her. And she was like, I either move from his class or I go to a different school. Because he shouts, like at small things, you've not done your homework, you've asked for a toilet break 3 times and he completely goes off. She's 8 years old, so he's shouting at 8-year-olds. So I just wanted to speak to that thing of transferred trauma when Josephine, you're talking about how we kind of carry that trauma with pride. My mother beat me black and blue. We talk about it like it was a good thing. I know I talk about my mom's UFOs because you do something wrong and this thing would land on your head if you're seated there. And when you've spoken about it, I'm thinking, I kind of talk about it with pride, you know, like I was hit. Yeah, I should get a medal for being, you know, for being resilient. But there are just a couple of things that I want to share about my journey with my daughter. One is that we need to demystify mental health. If you have malaria, nobody talks about it. Nobody laughs about it. People come to hospital to see you. They bring you flowers. They bring you fruits. But I remember when my daughter was first admitted, she was in high school and she took an overdose. So the school tried to call myself and my husband and they didn't get her, so they called the next person on the line, who was the nanny. They went to hospital and were called. In the evening, by the time we were getting round to getting the messages, there was no WhatsApp, so it was text message that you don't look until the end of the day. And she was admitted in Nairobi Hospital, and we began an interesting journey with them. But the way they handled it, it was more like, how could you do this? What's wrong with you? What do you need? You've got everything you need. What's wrong with you? And at that time, because we also didn't know what we were dealing with, it was difficult because we also didn't understand what was driving this kid, what could she possibly want. She was 14, about 14 then. She was about 14 then. And we didn't understand it. So the journey began. And the community around us, some people were very, very harsh about it. And they would, you know, they narrate the same thing. What does she want? What more does this kid want, you know? And so she started grouping people, the aunties who shunned her, she put in one box. We didn't know that. The cousins and the friends who shunned her in another box. The ones who kind of understood her, she put in another box. And that's how then she continued relating with them, even up to now. The other thing is around the policy systems and the health systems. That admission, Nairobi Hospital, the insurance refused to pay. Completely. They were like it was intentional, so they refused to pay. So luckily, my employer paid the bill, but they didn't refuse, the insurance refused to pay at the point of discharge. And then they used to come, send an agent to hospital every morning, and my daughter would say, because I was with her in hospital, I stayed with her. So maybe I'd be in the bathroom and I come and she'd say, oh, somebody came from the insurance, our name, Week Insurance. And they asked me many questions. I don't want them to talk to me. So I'd wonder, well, what did they possibly ask? So I didn't know what they were asking until now her second admission, because now I listened into some of the questions they were asking. So they would ask her stuff like, do you drink? You know, do you go out with your friends? Do your friends tell you about suicide? You know, stuff like that. And then they totally refuse to pay. And the insurance, right now she's on an insurance cover, but we pay a premium over premium so that she can get covered when she gets admitted. So that's a policy issue. Then the other thing is we learned was the difference between psychiatry and psychology. Because the psychiatrist, like her first admission, the psychiatrist came on hard at her. Subsequent admissions, we work with both providers, but we find that the psychologists are gentler. The psychiatrists, they're hard and want to give her drugs, which she didn't want. So the psychologists kind of speak with her, even though she will get medicine in the end. It's not something that the psychiatrists are pushing. And then the other thing is the culture. So even though we've moved away from the, stigmatization kind of, we've now gone to the extreme of banalizing mental health, so that it's almost fashionable to say, oh, you trigger me, or I'm depressed. You know, and why I say this is because when dealing with my daughter, when she says she is triggered, I know she is triggered, and I know where this is gonna go, and we prepare for it. But you find, like, I could be speaking with Jackie, and Jackie tells me she didn't like my bag, and I'm like, you're triggering me, you know. So we also need, it's fashionable, and I think we need to strike that balance. Because in banalizing mental health, then we're missing the point, and we then lose out on the proper treatment or the proper management of it. Then the consequences for us, the consequences of the mental health and how it reflects on the caregiver, I think we also need to take that into account. I've been a primary caregiver for my daughter, and it takes a toll on me. When she's in hospital, my life stops, so I have to balance between the two, because she wants me there. She's gotten to a point where she trusts me, so she wants me to be with her, and everything else then has to take a back step. And because of the stigma, right now I work for an employer who's very understanding, but my previous employer was like, oh, she wants to commit suicide, she might as well do it so that we move on, you know. That was the attitude. So I couldn't even get the time off. So I think we need to also think about the secondary trauma. And then the other thing that now we've learned this year, which is very, very unfortunate, is that stress, very high levels of stress, complicate an already delicate mental situation. So this year, my daughter went through an extremely, extremely high level of stress. She's written about it in her social media pages, so I can share about this. It was a work situation and a very toxic boss, and it drove her to a point of being suicidal. It triggered her. So she was in hospital earlier on in the year, and because of the high levels of trauma, now this is what the doctors have told us, she's now been diagnosed with lupus. So the consequences of the stigma and the toxicity that comes around mental health leads to other health issues. Yeah. So I think it's something that we need to be aware of, so that as we're supporting and managing those with mental health, then we know how to deal with it. But it's not all gloomy. My daughter is one of the brightest children, and I don't say because she's my daughter. Those who know her know about this. Somebody did speak about that earlier on. She went, with all this, she got a baby at the age of 19, went on to college, was top of her class. I got a letter from the chancellor of the university telling me about my daughter. I couldn't, as I was reading it, I was like, this is my child. Then went on to do her master's, and topped her class with grades that had never been seen before. She's currently doing her PhD and running an awareness, not an awareness, what do you call it, communication and advocacy podcast where she's interviewing presidents, ex-presidents in Africa. This is the same child. Now, I haven't told you the in-between, and because of time we can't go into that. The extremes between what she's doing, who she is, her personality, and she's a brilliant kid, and what the mental health challenges pose to her when they get her down to a point of being suicidal are, as you know, as different as chalk from cheese. But that's the reality. So it's how to manage the in-between and how to walk that journey with her and to support her. And I know she will beat lupus. I've got no doubt in my mind.
Oh, I really like what you, it deserves a hand clap, isn't it? And thank you so much for opening up to share. You know, there is that scripture, I think 2 Corinthians 1:2, that says that God allows us to go through things so that when we are comforted, we also can comfort other people. I mean, what you shared right there was sharpening all of us from this end and that end. And thank you so much. I pray that we can also as society keep creating awareness so that we're not shunning people, but we can empathize with them and walk the journey with them. Pastor Judy, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I want to ask a question about cults, the place of cults, and how that brainwashing can end up being, mental illness to a point it's no longer just spiritual, but these people can't recognize, what is being done to them. The other question is, I know of a lady who had certain characteristics, and then people around her kept thinking she has changed, only to go to the hospital and be diagnosed with a thyroid problem. So it appears like there are some of these mental illness symptoms that shows up in people, but they actually have something else, and I'm wondering how all these are related. Because also a season where I was burnt out, I also found out, in fact for me to go to the counselor, I thought I was sick mentally. I was, so I was trying to figure out, is this bipolar, what is it? Because I had very extreme energies. There are times I didn't want to see people, and there are times I had overwhelming energy. And then I found out mine was burnout. But the symptoms, again, similar to this lady who had a thyroid problem. So I'm wondering, at what point, and maybe it was answered, but how do you differentiate these things? Or do you have to go to a professional to actually rule out and okay, not a counselor, now go to a doctor, like that, and especially also that one for cult?
Okay, I know I have the mic, but they are the ones who will answer. I just want to respond to what she said. First, I just want to let you know that you're not alone in this, and thank you for sharing your journey. You touched on so many things that are so dear to my heart, and I believe everyone here, that one, even the language we use, that needs to change. Like on a day like today, people would be there like, oh, the weather is so bipolar, right? There are things we trivialize, that to that person who's bipolar, it's not something funny, then it means now people downplay what I go through. Secondly, I loved what you said about malaria. It's funny, no one ever says, oh, you have malaria disorder. Even the way we call mental health, why must we say it's a disorder, yeah? So just even empowering people on that. The other one is what you talked about, hospitals. There is a place where mental health needs to be offered from primary health level. I always say, when you go and your vitals are being checked, there needs to be a dotted line. And then now, a few guiding questions where the person checking you can know, is this a situation to call, let's say, Dr. Roslyn, or is this for Dr. So-and-so because it's something physical. They don't have that. I always say when TB had broken out, they had all these posters, TB in a TB,
yeah.
in a TB, and they had 4 steps of what to check. Imagine the power of having something like that to empower all doctors so that they know, because there are too many people being medicated, yet all they need is talk to someone, do exercises, and you're okay. Because in mental conditions that tend to show up physically. Next, I think the other thing I wanted to comment and speak to is of people not knowing. So that then, unless you're the one in a family going through it, people not knowing, which means that the community around you thinks, oh, it's a common cold, you'll snap out of it. What do you mean it's something we are dealing with forever? So just empowering people so that then everyone around is educated. Finally, about caregivers. They are the people who are forgotten the most, and unfortunately sometimes you find secondary mental conditions coming from caregivers because they're forgotten and everyone assumes you're okay. I've spoken about that in detail. If you can get just to speak to caregivers. I'll turn over to Roslyn and about the cults and
Number one, I just want to say there's a mental health board that has been formed now, just formed about 2 months ago, and it's by psychologists. So we're just waiting for them to put their office together, and now we start pushing. In terms of the issue is in psychology, there are many groups, many bodies, but now the body is coming and putting us together, which is fantastic. In terms of insurance, I fight with them every day. In fact, right now, the other day I was talking to Britam, Minette, and CAC. I was looking at the list. I'm telling you, most of the people in the list are institutions. You don't have individual psychologists. So we thank God of the now awareness that's coming. We are putting our names now on the list of insurance. But there's one client of mine who said they talked to which insurance, they said it's insurance, and they say they need a letter from a doctor to come and see a psychologist. Now I'm like, what? Then it makes sense. So we thank God for that body. We pray they're going to push it. So let's give it some time and pray, because it's crazy. Then the other thing of schools, not understanding our children's temperaments. About 2 weeks ago, I had a child suspended, 14-year-old. No, about 14-year-old. She was suspended because she talks her mind. She talks her mind and she tells you. Then she told to come and see a psychologist. So the mother called me. And I'm like, it's just a nice girl who she just talks her mind and I'm like, they just seem not to understand this child. If you can, maybe transfer her to a school that maybe now will mold her and not burn her spirit. So I think the schools need also to have maybe talk and educate their teachers on how to deal with maybe children just who understand and are strong. Because at home, you're pushing this child to discuss and to talk. At school, they are being told, do not talk, keep quiet. So this little girl is getting confused. Yeah, so she just really getting confused. For cults, do you know you as a person, as a grown-up, you can make your little children as cults because you have power over them. You can just create a cult in your own home. You can be a cult leader. Anyone can be a cult leader. All you need to do is just believe, make them believe. And that's why you find that some churches, you wonder, why do people go to these churches over and over and over again? Because of there's a void these people are looking for, and you're giving them false hope. Yeah. And when somebody is already in a cult, that is already a mental case. It's already a mental case. So everyone, because of that false belief, Pastor Judy, you can decide Lavington. All of us, we just follow you blindly. You tell us jump, we ask you how high, and we jump. And we do not believe anyone else apart from you. Even if the Bible, Jesus comes here and sits next to you, we look at Jesus, we look at him. because that's where we believe. And all of us now we have mental issues because we do not know ourselves. To be a mental health person is actually to understand who you are. And interestingly, your daughter has a mental condition, but she's mentally healthy because she understands who she is. She understands her triggers even better than me, who is sitting here. She understands when she's feeling this way, I need now to see, or I need now to medicate, or I need to talk to my psychologist, or I need to talk to my mom. Because now she's mentally healthy, although she has a mental condition. That's how I'll define her. She's better off than a person who is sitting at home and suffering from burnout and saying, you know what, I'm capable, I can do it, I'm strong enough, I'm not going to tell people. And she's better off than that kind of a person. Yeah. Because to be mental healthy in conclusion is just understand who you are. And if you think something, when you see something or anything happens and you think it upsets you, ask yourself why. And go find out the answers of why. Yeah.
I know this subject can, before Tony speaks, and Tony, I'll just give you a minute or so because we are running out of time. It looks like this, we can never run out of talking this topic. It's, there are many layers and we are peeling, and the more we peel, we need to peel and peel some more. But I just like what, and it looks like we've got work to do. As church, as people, we have work to do out there, a lot. I liked what was shared in the answers. How does a person improve their mental health? Because we need to go out there and tell people, connect with other people, being physically active, learning new skills, giving to others, and even when we go out to share, we're giving to others, we pay attention to the present moment and being mindful. That one even speaks to me because sometimes you find yourself on the road and you're thinking, let me catch up with a certain phone call. And yet, there's some nice music playing on radio and there's a nice, sunset and nice scenery, but I'm not being present in that moment. So I think there's a lot to just be shared. Tony, if, in 30 seconds so that I can, and take that as your parting shot, then I'll have 30 seconds parting shot. I know you can all do it.
All right, I'll just start by what you've mentioned. I'm actually trying to structure it in terms of, okay, that one has disappeared because of the 30 seconds. I'll say this, at what point did you realize that the phrase, God helps those who help themselves, was not in the Bible? At what point did we realize that? That's how conditioning comes, and that's how cards come. Because we've had it from when we were kids to the point that but the Bible says, however, it does not say so. So cults are when you do not read for yourself. When you do not yourself. Yeah, and I mean the Bible talks about it, when God says, come, let's reason together. Test me in this. It's it's pushing us towards don't just listen to other people. Find out for yourselves. Alright? So that essentially is what we need to do. And then now in terms of the responses you asked, rather you were reading from how do we what is the question? How do we ensure our mental health? I know you read what was written there, but what you didn't realize that in giving those answers, what I was saying was you just need to be a model Christian, because those are the characteristics of a Christian, right? Exactly. But then how you give it out, because if you come and say, as a Christian, I will switch off all other religions. But then if you come and share the way those answers have been given, people are like, all right, so reach out to others. Okay, so these are things, relationship, these are things I can do, these are things I understand. All I was just doing was, put the Bible out there in a way that it will be accepted by many.
Thank you. Thank you. A hand clap for Tony. Thank you for coming and keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you. Just your parting shot.
My parting shot would be every day we are conscious about how we show up physically. Whether you're getting up to shower, we have our routine. I think there's a place where we need to prioritize mental health so that if you can't do it daily, every week, have a meeting with yourself and check in mentally, how am I doing? By the time you're getting to Roslyn, it should be something that is beyond your control. But if we're diligent and intentional about checking in with ourselves mentally and make that an everyday thing, then we'll be 10 steps ahead.
Okay, personal clinic. Let's appreciate Josephine. Let's go. And thank you for coming. Thank you for what you share. Her book is out there. I haven't started reading it. I bought one. It's on queue. But I will get to it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rosalie.
Yeah. For me, is look at your patterns from generations, your great grand. Actually, do your family tree. Find out what are these commonalities you have in your families. Pray over them. Let's say, decide it stops with me. Then look at under the table. What are these things that you've hidden under the table? Remove them. Start sorting themselves out. Because as we are all going to our olden age, you don't want to go that automated package. Sort it out. If you have friends, now that you guys are already having small groups, bring it out, talk it out. If you can't deal with it, you come and see us, come and see our profession. You don't want to go older and older with so much baggage on your head. So when you have released yourself, it's easier now even to help the other people. But if you still have a baggage, how are we going to help the younger generation that are coming? So let us release ourselves. Look under the table, release yourself, and try not to have a lot of gray area in your life. It is doable, it's possible.
Hebrews 12:1, wherefore laying aside every weight and the sin that does so easily beset us, let us run the race with endurance.
Yeah.
So actually, release. Yeah, and thank you for that. Let's appreciate Rose. Let's appreciate that. One thing I made a decision, and this was out of my children advising me. I used to sleep 5 hours a night. I used to sleep at 10 religiously and wake up at 3. What was I doing at 3 o'clock? I was praying and fellowship with the Lord. Mine wasn't quiet time, it was church. I would have my guitar and worship and be prostrate before the Lord, read my Bible, then go out and exercise at 5:30. Every day religiously. And my kids told me one day, they read something. There's a guy in India who was a CEO, 45 years, physically fit. He just collapsed one day and died. When they checked his organs, they realized there was no renewing. He wasn't sleeping enough. And my kids said, Dad, you're going to leave us. And I thought, okay, I need to perhaps make this adjustment. So what do? And I had a conversation with the Lord wondering, God, no, I'm time with you, how will it be? And the Lord just told me, John, it's not about works, but grace.
Yeah.
So I had to start adding my time from 5 hours to 6 hours to 7, eventually to 8. I make sure I religiously sleep at 8. I'm more alive, I'm more active, I'm happier, and I'm just a personal testimony how sleep is very, very critical. I just want to call up Pastor Judy. I thank everyone for coming. This was such a powerful session, wasn't it? And thankfully we appreciate that we have technology and we can share this. I'm sure we'll be sharing the link or whatever it is so that we can share it with many more people that were not able to come. Pastor Judy.
So I just want to pray for us. I think it's good to pray for Carol. At this point we don't need to record.